There are a lot of risks involved in owning a business, much like there are a lot of risks involved when you get behind the wheel of a car. I'm on my way to American Express Canada to talk to Howard Grosfield. He's a big advocate on continuity planning, and he says that not enough businesses are doing this. I sat down with him to tell us exactly what a continuity plan is and why it's so important.
Continuity plan in its simplest form is really the steps that a business can take either today or in the face of some significant disruption to ensure that the critical functions of their business continue to operate. It's really about, when you think about making sure that businesses are in a position to focus on the recovery in the face of a disaster, as opposed to scrambling to try and figure out how to restart a business when some significant disaster has taken place. The second piece is that the products and services that that business is providing and your most important clients and suppliers really rely and depend on for you, is if for whatever reason those are no longer available, that gives a reason for those clients and suppliers to seek out those services from a competitor. And the third piece, which I think is the most important one, is it's about protecting what an extensive amount of investment, time, and energy that a business owner has made in their business in building infrastructure, their strategies, the knowledge, and even the office and the place they work. It's about protecting all of those investments to make sure that they continue or can be replaced when a disaster occurs. The most recent American Express Small Business Monitor that we conducted showed that only about 43% of business owners were either well or very well prepared in terms of the steps they would take in the face of some significant disruption. And what's most interesting about these statistics is you need to look at them in the context of the fact that in that same monitor that we did, 40% of those surveys had in fact experienced some significant disruption in the past. So when you think about that, 40% had experienced some significant disruption in the past, and yet 8 out of 10 said that business continuity planning was either not a priority or not high on their to-do list. It's really about time and money. And it's something that I continue to get impressed with every time I speak to a business owner. I mean, they are the entrepreneurs, they are the risk takers in this country, and the reality is for many of them is they're not only the CEO of their business, but they are the head of HR, they are the head of the accounting department, they're the head of the sales department, and they also wake up every day with a tremendous amount of pressure to ensure that their business delivers so that they can pay and provide for the employees and the families that work for them. So when you start to think about those activities that don't directly translate into top-line sales or bottom-line profit, it's really no surprise that it somehow doesn't find its way up high on the to-do list. We have a number of businesses that operate a number of call centers and have large sales forces, and they've gone the extra step of saying, well, if a disruption occurs that takes our site down, whether it's a power outage, a hurricane, or a tornado, how are we going to ensure that our employees can wake up tomorrow and continue to provide those services? So they have remote access. Each of their employees know how to log in and use the telephone from home to wake up and continue to provide their services. They've gone the extra mile of sourcing either another site through another service provider or breaking their site into two so that when one site goes down, they can shift volume from a telephone perspective to a site that's still in operation. The type of continuity plan that you have and the complexity associated with it varies dramatically by the type of business you're in. So if you are heavily focused on IT, it's obviously having proper data backup and storage. Where there's power outage, having backup power. If you're a bakery shop on Main Street, it's about different things. It's about sourcing where you're going to get bread should you have a power outage or your store goes down, so that you can continue to at least provide services to your customer. Business continuity planning is about having a plan in place for some unforeseen consequence that you just simply don't know when it's going to occur. And as a result, you need to sit down, if you don't have a plan, as soon as possible. And more importantly, you need to revisit that plan at regular intervals to make sure that it's up to date and still relevant, depending on how your business has grown and the type of services you're offering. What you really need to do, if there's just one thing, is sit down and have the conversation with your employees. That is the most important advice that we hear time and time again, because out of that conversation, we'll start a dialogue that will enable people to do two things. To sort of, look at the business through the lens of the what-if scenarios and start to think about what they would do in the face of those scenarios. And it starts a dialogue or a process to put in place an understanding or the steps that that business would take. And so if there's nothing else that people get out of this conversation, the advice I hear time and time again is encourage people just to make the time to start the conversation, and then make sure you have that conversation and that planning exercise with your key employees at regular intervals.